Hello and welcome to the video for Thursday, week 16 animation. Here we are on the website. I'm scrolling down to today. We've got a cognitive drawing exercise here, which is, drawing the arm in this position. And then I have a couple of videos here that I thought you might enjoy. This one talks about managing colors inside of Adobe Animate, and it shows you about, you know, how when you sample colors or create colors in Animate, you can have both fills and strokes of those colors. Fill being, of course, the color inside, and stroke being the outside edge of a color. It shows you how you can easily change those colors and how you can save them to your swatches and even create what are called tag swatches, which make those swatches stand out. So this is an interesting way to look at color and an interesting way to work with color. There's also a second video I have for you here, and this one's located at the bottom of this page, and here it is. And it basically talks about how onion skinning works, where it takes whatever frame you're on and makes that dark, and then the frames that are in the future it'll make purple, and the ones in the past it'll make green, or it may shift those colors a little bit, but it helps you identify where you are in the animation. Your current frame that you're on is this dark one, and then the ones that happened before are over here, the ones that are going to happen in the future here, and they also get more transparent as time goes by, so as each frame goes by. So this helps you determine where you are in your animation using the onion skinning, and he shows an example of that in this video here, so check that out. The other thing I wanted to talk about today is the types of animation, the types of coloring that you can do with your animations, right? So basically, I mean, I'm sure there's an infinite amount types of colorings that you could do, but I'm just going to cover 3 of them here. The first one being black on white animation. And so I have some samples here for you guys. This is a nice video on YouTube called Side Effects, and basically I'm calling it black on white because it's black lines with usually with white fills, is how this animation is done. But of course you can see there's some interesting backgrounds, maybe Photoshop-y things done in the backgrounds. If we sort of go forward a little bit, you'll see there's these kind of almost watercolory grayscale backgrounds too. So this is they've obviously put a lot of effort into this. The backgrounds add a lot and allow you to have just very simple characters with black outlines and white bodies. So check that out. It's a good animation and a good example of white on black. The next one is an example of what I call I'm sorry, that the last one was black on white animation. So black outlines with like white fills. The next one is white on black animation, and got an example here. Let me just forward a little bit in this example. So in this one, black is the predominant color, and white is being used to animate on top of the black, almost looking like a scratcher board or something like that. So check this out. This is an interesting little animation here. It definitely has an atmosphere to it, and it looks like it took a lot of time to make, but it's very cool looking. So check that out. That's another form of animation that you can do. And of course our third one here is full color. Now, and this one looks really cool. I'll stop it right here. But this was a student at Cal Arts who did this, and if you watch this animation, which is only a couple minutes, afterwards it'll link over to a making of video, which is like 5 to 7 minutes long. About this is it right here, 7 minutes long, the making of Spring Herald. So it's interesting to watch that after you watch this if you're interested. And of course that's full color. Okay, so those are 3 generic types of coloring that you can do for your animation. Now of course there's everything in between. There's you could do sort of a black and white animation and then just use one extra color like blue or something like that. And so in other words, you can have spot colors in your animations. You could have animations with just one color or two colors. You could do whole animations, sepia tones, brown tones. So really the sky's the limit as far as coloring goes. But um, let's just say that, if there's two general types, there would be black and white and color. And then of course, black and white could be white on black, and of course color could be any set of colors under the sun, including just one color and all the way up to an infinite amount of colors. So, that's one way to think about the different types of coloring you can do on your animation. But also I wanted to look at Adobe Animate real quick and talk about different ways that you could put your animations together to utilize color. So for example, you could do something like do some backgrounds that were sort of like watercolory. And then, and of course those backgrounds could have the scenes in them. Like, it could be a scene, this could be a kid, you could draw a little dock in here, and there could be a kid standing out looking at the ocean, and then there's all the clouds in the sky, right? Now, if you wanted to, you could use some background images like this, which of course could be created in a program like Photoshop and brought in. But then you could do your animations as black and white, and your black and white characters and objects would move over this, but it would take advantage of the interesting background. So, if most people in this class are doing black and white animations, and then they're going to attempt to put in as much color as they can. But, one way you could get away with having a lot of color is, just dropping in the color from other images and just animating black and white over it, like this little ball that's going over this, right? So that's one option, to sort of very colorful backgrounds, which can either be abstract like this, or they could be very concrete. They could be, very specific backgrounds. If we go back to the website here, and we go to, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, this one right here. So, you could have just these very interesting backgrounds that are sort of painted back there. And then if you wanted to, these characters could be completely black and white outlines with no fill, and they just be sort of walking in front of things. And that's the style of animation you could do if you were interested. Okay, so in addition to that, other options that we have, you could paint a background that's a little more abstract, not the watercolor, but maybe something like this, right? You could just put in, blocks of color. They could represent mountains and sky or whatever. And then once again, you could have just a black and white shape, or black and white shapes animating over that if you wanted to. Now, other things that you can do as far as animation goes is you could create symbols and animate those. So in this case, I just made a ball, and I filled it with red. And then after I filled it with red, I animated it. So now I don't have to worry about coloring every single different frame in that, because basically the ball is colored, and then it moves across the screen, and wherever it goes, it stays colored. So that saves me a lot of, frame by frame animation coloring. Now, if you find that that's the way you have to go, and I'll use this exercise from a previous week, you can go ahead and color each frame of your animation, which is time consuming but produces really nice results. But you have to make sure that you close all of the sections of your animation that you're going to color. So for example, if I wanted to color this little bat guy, kind of an interesting color, I could grab a fill color here. I've got this bright green. I could click on my paint bucket tool, and then I could simply, go in everywhere where he's got his sort of arms and legs kind of thing, and I could fill all that with that color, right? Now, it's because these are all closed lines, closed loops, so to speak, that I can do that. Now, if I wanted to change colors, I can then go ahead and, oops, I don't think I want to use that blue because it's like the same color as the outline. So let me use something like a little more orangey or something. These colors are going to contrast really badly. But if you draw your lines right, you can do any kind of coloring you want, and hopefully it will stay within the lines. It's like a coloring book, right? So unfortunately, the problem is you have to do that on every single frame. So, and it's hard to do things like keep all your lines closed on every single frame. So, this is the most time-consuming and difficult way to go, but this is the way a lot of us will do our animations because we have no choice. We've drawn these characters with all these different shapes and areas. we have to fill them with color and then, move on and fill the next ones with color. If we have a shape that's not quite closed, when you, let's see, okay, object drawing mode off. Let me see if I can, make a object here. Paint. Let's see. Oh my God, that's like the giantest brush ever. All right, let's see. So, okay, so now what I want to do, I want to try and fill this shape with a color. Yeah, and see how it's not filling because it's not closed, right? So, so what you have to do with shapes like this is you have to close them. And so that would mean, grabbing your black color and going in here and basically, I'm not going to do a very good job here, but just get the idea of finishing the shape, right? Then when it's closed, you have the opportunity to get a different color and then fill it in with that color, right? But previous to it being closed, it'd be very difficult to fill the color. So even if you do things like, have accent lines like this line here for the wing, which is not really connected to anything, you can still, as long as the object that is sort of around or behind it, um, you know, if that, let me click on this guy here. Oh, I'm still in black here. Um, actually, this is a good example because I happen to know those wings are on a different layer. So actually, let me show you this. So, these things are all solid closed shapes, right? However, when I made the wings, I did those a little differently. Uh, the wings are, let me see if I can turn off some of these other layers. Uh, is there a body layer? Oh yeah. So see, the wings are like their own little shape layers that aren't closed. So when I clicked on this before, it didn't fill with color. However, you can go to these pages or these layers, and especially if they're like behind something else, you can close them up, right? So, and my paintbrush tool is still too big. I'll make it a lot smaller. But like I know that this wing is going to be behind the bat body, so if I close that up, and then I turn everything back on, um, you can see this extra line that I did right now. But if I click on that layer right there and see where it is, it's probably in front of the bat body right now. So if I click on that and drag it down, see how that line disappears behind the filled in body here? And now I have a shape that I can color. Um, like so, right? So a couple things. One, if you have shapes that are hidden behind other shapes, you can close them off, which will allow you to fill them. Also, since you have to close all your shapes to fill them, if you want to add more interest to your images, you can put little details here that are drawn inside of the main shape, but not part of it, so that they, help create the accents and everything, but the main shape can be clicked on and colored. Now this wing over here should not allow me to color it because I didn't go back in um, and close it off in any way, shape, or form. So now I got to figure out what layer that's on. Click this. Okay, so that's part one layer. I got to turn off these other layers here. Let's see. So now I've got to, the best option is to use my black and this, and once again, make a little connection between these two. Now, if I take this and drag it down below everything else, once again, you can't really see, maybe you can see a little bit right there, I'm not quite sure what we're seeing there, if that's the, let's see, yeah, looks like maybe we're seeing a little bit of that. So let me go back here a few to right before I drew this thing. Now, there's no rules here, so you can do whatever you need to do to make this work. So, if I want a slightly smaller brush, I can do that. Okay, and then also I could take this and I could drag it out a little bit so that it doesn't quite go up to where it's going to be easily shown, right? So now if I turn these back on, and grab this and drag it down below this. Now you can't see anything having to do with the wing, and I can go click on my yellow color. Oops, my bad. Deselect this, click on my yellow color, and then do that. So in other words, because those are sealed, I got to finish this guy. I got to finish his ears, or it just won't be right. Okay, so maybe red and red. Okay, so because I was able to seal those or close those shapes off, I could color them even though they're not showing up. So this is another technique you can use to color individual items. Now the last technique I want to talk about today is something that some of you guys have done some students have done in the past, and you guys may be tempted to do this as well. And what that is to just use a program like Photoshop to go ahead and make your actual colored parts of your images, right? Like, let me see if I can find an image in here that is, yeah, like what I want here. So like, you could do something like, you could make your drawings and you could open them up in Photoshop, and you could basically color every single frame, or when I say frame, I mean every single portion of that character in Photoshop with the colors you want, and then export it as a PNG file, and then simply bring it into Animate. And what you'd be doing is, you'd have a bunch of single images that you then paste into Animate, and it creates an animation. Now, some of you may end up doing something like that from Photoshop or from Illustrator or from some other drawing program that you like, because it's easier for you to work with that program to color things, and then you simply take the output, all the output of everything you colored, basically all the different frames, import it in here, and go ahead and make any adjustments you need to. Now that's a perfectly valid way of working, and some people do animations like that. But even if you are somebody who works that way, it might help you to learn how to animate things and to work with color inside of Adobe Animate, because it's just a lot quicker to work in here, and there's at least a few options of ways that you can do it. There's gradients, and like I said, you could save swatches and make whole libraries and things. So that's a really good option for you. Now don't forget that there is the Adobe Color website, which let me go to right here. So color.adobe.com, and this is where you can find all kinds of colors, and you can copy the hexadecimal code here, or even take a screenshot of it, open it in Photoshop and sample the colors, But the hexadecimal code is also something that can be posted into programs like Photoshop or Illustrator. So if I go down here to Photoshop, I click on my, sort of foreground color here, and then if I just paste in this number, and of course I have to get rid of the hashtag because there's a hashtag already there, but that's the color that was, that we were just looking at right here. And so if you do that, it's helpful because then you can go in and you can go to Adobe and mix a color palette that are the main colors you want to use for animation, and then you can just sample those and bring them in and color things with it, right? So okay, so that is where I want to leave you off today. Different. Going back to the website once again. Check out these animations. They're well done, and they show different types of coloring. Check out these videos which talk about managing colors, making swatches and tagging swatches, and also just a little reminder that how your onion skinning works, where it shows the present and the past and the future of your animation. And then of course do your exercise file here, and then continue to work on your final animation, which is due on May 18th. And let me know if you guys have any questions or problems, and I'll be happy to help. And have yourself a great weekend. Thanks.